Pull up a chair, because this one lives in your kitchen. You're buying the same things this week everybody buys this week. Ground beef, buns, strawberries, something cold for the cooler. And a big national headline has good news for you. It says your 4th of July cookout is the cheapest it's been in 10 years. So let's do what nobody at that press conference did. Let's go read the survey. Here's the claim, word for word, so nobody says I bent it. The Washington Times ran the headline, Farm Bureau, July 4th cookouts are cheapest in 10 years after inflation. And the White House took the bow. Their spokesman, Kush Desai, credited the administration for limited price increases and promised Americans are set to see more economic relief. Economic relief. Hold on to those two words, because your receipt is about to argue with them. Now look at the survey that headline is built on. The American Farm Bureau Federation priced this year's cookout for 10 people at $73.82. That is up $2.90 from last year, a 4% jump, and it is the highest cost in the survey's whole history, going back to 2016. Read that again slow. Not the cheapest, the highest. The most expensive cookout that survey has ever recorded. And the star of that basket makes it worse. The 2 pounds of ground beef came in at $14.06, up 5.5%, the highest beef price that survey has ever recorded. So the single most American thing on the grill, the burger, just hit an all-time high. Tell me again how that's the cheapest cookout in 10 years. Don't take my word for the mood either. The Farm Bureau titled its own release, Cost of 4th of July Cookout Reflects Inflation Increase, and the line items tell you why. Pork and beans up almost 14%, strawberries up over 12%, hamburger buns up nearly 8%, ground beef up 5.5%. Every single thing on the table went up. That's not a bargain. That's your whole cart bleeding a little in every aisle. So how does a record high become the cheapest in 10 years? Here's the trick, and it's the whole ball game. You take the grocery basket, which rose 4%. Then you divide it by overall inflation, which rose 4.2%. Groceries went up a hair slower than everything else. So in real terms, after inflation, the cookout looks like a relative bargain. That's the sleight of hand. The number didn't fall, the denominator got bigger. Now I'll be fair, because the math itself isn't a lie. Economists use inflation-adjusted prices for good reasons, and the arithmetic is real. But here's the thing the arithmetic can't do. It can't put a single dollar back in your pocket. Your cookout costs more actual dollars than it ever has. It only looks cheap because your rent, your insurance, and everything else you buy rose even faster. That's not relief. That's a bigger squeeze wearing a party hat. And you don't have to trust a lefty organizer on this. Fox Business read the exact same Farm Bureau survey, same numbers, and headlined it the way your receipt reads it. 4th of July cookout prices hit record high. So when even Fox looks at the data and writes record high, and the White House looks at the same data and calls it economic relief, the gap between those two headlines is the whole story. So ask the real question. Who benefits from telling working people their grocery pain isn't real? Not you. You're the one at the register. It's the folks who need you to feel fine about your bill while it quietly climbs. Because a squeezed family that thinks it's getting relief doesn't complain and doesn't organize. That's who this headline is for. It was never for the person actually buying the beef. So here's the ground truth, and I'll keep it as plain as your grocery slip. The cookout hit a record in the dollars you actually pay, $73.82, with the highest beef price ever recorded. Cheapest in a decade is just what a record high looks like after you divide it by everything else going up faster. And the register does not take ratios, it takes dollars. Trust your receipt, not the press release. I'm Marcus, and this is Pixel Politics.